Before starting the story, please subscribe to my channel and watch the video without skipping. The Young and the Restless spoilers. Is a hospital crisis on the horizon after Billy's crash? The Young and the Restless spoilers and updates tease that Billy Abbott, Jason Thompson, might be on the verge of a car accident, which could potentially trigger a hospital emergency. Let's explore some hints that could indicate impending peril in the upcoming episodes. Get updates on the latest news about the Young and the Restless, straight to your inbox. We use your personal data for interest-based advertising, as outlined in our privacy notice. What is this? Behind-the-scenes intel indicate a serious crisis is indeed looming. To begin with, it's important to recognize that a significant emergency is on the horizon, and it promises some intensive drama. Insider information suggests there may be a medical crisis unfolding, raising the possibility of Billy becoming entangled in the situation. Additionally, Billy is losing grip on his life, which prompts Jack Abbott, Peter Bergman, to utter a foreboding warning in the September 22 episode of Y&R. Jack will foreseeably assert that Billy is on a path to disaster. Could this potentially hint at an imminent car crash? In reality, Jack's concern is pointing to Billy's spiraling downfall and impending troubles. Soaps often drop hints in lines of dialogue about impending situations. Nonetheless, soaps frequently employ heavy dialogue to provide subtle clues about future events. It wouldn't be shocking if Jack's comment about a crash serves as a precursor to Billy's possible car accident. What is this? Given that Billy has been drinking more to deal with his numerous challenges, a drunk driving incident seems plausible. On the other hand, there might be an enigma regarding Billy's potential crash. What if it turns out that the brakes on Billy's vehicle were tampered with or something similar? This could raise suspicions about Kane Ashby, Billy Flynn, and even Michael Baldwin, Christian LeBlanc, especially since Kane will instruct his fixer to manage the situation involving Billy. Michael would never hurt Billy, although he may be accused of it. Michael would never go to such lengths to silence Billy and protect Kane's plan, but he might still face accusations. Jack would likely accuse Kane of targeting Billy, which could escalate conflict. The feud between Kane and Jack could escalate dramatically if Billy suffers a physical injury, especially were it to be a life-threatening one, or a coma. A potentially life-threatening car accident might also serve as a catalyst for Billy and Sally Spectra, Courtney Hope, to mend their relationship. One can easily envision emotional scenes at Billy's bedside, where a distraught Sally pleads for a comatose Billy to return to her, especially if he's on life support. Billy could even awaken as a transformed individual, ready to prioritize Sally, his family, and what truly matters. The Young and the Restless spoilers. Is a hospital crisis on the horizon after Billy's crash? The streets of Genoa City have always been filled with high drama, but fans may need to brace themselves for one of the most harrowing turns in recent years. Rumors and teasers from the Young and the Restless suggest that Billy Abbott could soon face a life-altering accident that leaves both his loved ones and the hospital system in Genoa City on edge. A car crash storyline involving Billy would not just place his life in jeopardy, it could also spark a chain reaction of emotional fallout, professional rivalries, and moral dilemmas that ripple through nearly every corner of the canvas. But the biggest looming question is this: if Billy's crash results in widespread injuries or a shortage of medical resources, could Genoa City Memorial itself be thrown into crisis? For longtime fans, Billy Abbott has always been a character who walks a razor's edge between reckless and redeemable. Whether it's his gambling struggles, his impulsive choices in business, or his fiery romantic entanglements, Billy is rarely far from trouble. And this time, spoilers hint that his need for control collides with fate in the most devastating way possible. A crash storyline doesn't just put him in danger, it forces everyone connected to him to confront old wounds, face buried emotions, and make decisions that could redefine their futures. Genoa City Memorial Hospital may be the setting where those life-or-death moments unfold, but the personal stakes will extend far beyond the emergency room doors. The potential crash storyline also raises questions about who else might be involved. Would Billy be alone behind the wheel, or could another passenger add layers of guilt and responsibility to his already tangled life? If Lily Winters, Chelsea Lawson, or even one of Billy's children were impacted by this accident, the fallout could be explosive. Chelsea, who has only just found stability after her mental health struggles, would be devastated to see Billy clinging to life. Lily, who still shares a complicated bond with Billy, could find herself pulled back into his orbit, torn between moving on and protecting her heart. And then there's Victoria Newman, who knows Billy better than anyone and may once again be thrust into crisis mode when his recklessness endangers not only himself but everyone around him. But the personal anguish is just one part of the puzzle. A hospital crisis could become the focal point of the storyline, reminding fans that Genoa City Memorial has always been more than just a backdrop, it's a pressure cooker where lives hang in the balance. A serious influx of patients following Billy's crash could overwhelm the staff, sparking conflicts between doctors, nurses, and administrators. Could this be the moment where Nate Hastings' medical background is put to the ultimate test? Having transitioned from doctor to businessman, Nate has wrestled with his place in the hospital hierarchy. A crisis could either drag him back into his old life or force him to confront whether he truly belongs in the Newman corporate world. Devon Hamilton may also become involved if Lily is pulled back into Billy's chaos. Devon has always been protective of his sister, and a hospital crisis could force him to clash with Billy, reopening old tensions about trust, responsibility, and family loyalty. Meanwhile, Elena Dawson, who has been somewhat sidelined lately, could finally have a major storyline as one of the doctors fighting to save lives in the aftermath of the crash. This could reignite her connection to the Newman drama while also putting her in the middle of high-stakes professional and personal choices. Adding to the tension is the possibility that Billy's crash might not be just an accident. Y&R is famous for its layered plots, and whispers about sabotage or foul play could turn a straightforward medical crisis into a full-blown mystery. Could someone have tampered with Billy's car, hoping to silence him or derail his latest scheme? Victor Newman, who never trusts Billy with Victoria or with the Newman legacy, might suddenly find himself accused of going too far. Or perhaps someone from Billy's gambling past comes back to haunt him, turning the crash into a message rather than a tragedy. If foul play is involved, the investigation could divide the Newmans, Abbotts, and everyone in between, raising the stakes beyond life and death survival. For Jack Abbott, his brother's accident would cut especially deep. Jack has spent years trying to support Billy while also shielding him from his own worst instincts. A hospital crisis might finally push Jack to reckon with whether he's enabling his brother's destructive cycle or truly helping him heal. Jack's relationship with Diane could also come into play here, as Diane may try to comfort Jack while also worrying about how much the Abbotts' turmoil could destabilize their family. The hospital itself may become a symbolic battleground in the story. Imagine overcrowded waiting rooms, tense scenes of doctors making impossible choices, and family members lashing out as emotions boil over. If Billy's crash sparks a multi-patient emergency, Genoa City Memorial could run dangerously low on resources, creating moral dilemmas for the staff. Which patients get priority treatment? How do families cope with uncertainty when loved ones are left waiting for surgery? And could the crisis expose flaws in the hospital's leadership, leading to shakeups in management or even lawsuits from furious families? From a storytelling perspective, Y&R thrives when personal drama collides with broader social issues, and a hospital crisis would be no exception. The show could explore themes of responsibility, forgiveness, survival, and the fragility of life, all through the lens of Billy's accident. Fans know that Billy has always been a survivor, but survival comes at a cost, and this time, the ripple effect might be too great to ignore. Will Billy wake up with a renewed sense of purpose, determined to finally take control of his life? Or will the crash mark the beginning of a darker spiral, one that drags everyone in his orbit down with him? As the possibility of a hospital crisis looms, one thing is certain: no one in Genoa City will be left untouched. The Newmans, Abbotts, and everyone connected to Billy will be forced to confront their deepest fears and most painful truths. For viewers, the storyline promises heart-stopping drama, emotional confrontations, and the kind of layered storytelling that keeps Y&R at the top of the daytime game. Billy's crash may be the spark, but the fire it ignites could burn through the entire canvas, reshaping relationships, exposing secrets, and reminding fans that in Genoa City, every moment can change everything. Whether the hospital crisis is resolved quickly or spirals into an ongoing catastrophe, one thing is guaranteed: viewers will be glued to their screens, holding their breath as the fate of Billy Abbott, and everyone who loves him, hangs in the balance. The Young and the Restless spoilers. Is a hospital crisis on the horizon after Billy's crash? If you thought Genoa City was finally settling down after weeks of corporate chaos, simmering family feuds, and romantic shakeups, think again. Spoilers hint that Billy Abbott's life may once again be hanging by a thread after a devastating crash, and this time, the fallout could reach far beyond Billy himself. Not only could his accident push the Abbott family into turmoil, but it might also create a full-blown medical crisis at Genoa City Memorial Hospital, testing both the staff and the families gathered at his bedside. Billy has always been the wild card in town. His impulsive choices, his gambling struggles, and his constant need to prove himself often land him in hot water. But a crash storyline could push him into new territory, reminding everyone in Genoa City just how fragile life is. Viewers know that Billy often walks the fine line between recklessness and redemption, but if his accident is severe enough, it could force him, and the people who love him, to reevaluate everything. For Jack, Victoria, Lily, Chelsea, and even Victor, the crash could become the catalyst for personal reckonings they've been avoiding for years. The crash itself raises several questions. Was Billy alone, or was someone else with him in the car? Spoilers leave room for speculation that another passenger may have been involved, which could dramatically raise the stakes. Imagine if Johnny or Katie, his children with Victoria, were in the car at the time. Or what if Chelsea's son Connor was with him, since Billy has become a trusted figure in Connor's life? The guilt and blame would ripple out, tearing apart already fragile relationships. Chelsea, who has leaned on Billy during some of her darkest hours, could find herself spiraling if she feels responsible for the crash. Meanwhile, Victoria might be torn between her anger at Billy's recklessness and her love for the father of her children. A hospital storyline is always a powerful way to bring the canvas together, and this one could do exactly that. Genoa City Memorial would instantly become the heart of the drama, with doctors scrambling to save Billy's life while multiple families collide in the waiting room. Imagine Chelsea breaking down as she pleads for answers, Victoria pacing the halls with fury and fear, and Jack quietly trying to hold his family together while barely holding himself up. Add Lily into the mix, who might feel compelled to rush to Billy's side even though they've gone their separate ways, and the tension skyrockets. The medical staff could also be drawn into the spotlight in ways fans have been craving. Elena Dawson, often underutilized, could suddenly find herself front and center, working tirelessly to stabilize Billy and perhaps other accident victims if the crash causes a larger pileup. Her professionalism would be tested under unimaginable pressure, giving her long overdue storylines. Nate Hastings could also be pulled back into the hospital, despite his shift into the business world. A crisis of this magnitude might remind Nate of his calling as a doctor, forcing him to choose between his career with the Newmans and his natural instinct to save lives. Could the accident spark a career change for Nate, or at least reopen old wounds about leaving medicine behind? The possibility of a wider hospital crisis looms large. If Billy's accident involves multiple victims, Genoa City Memorial could quickly find itself overwhelmed. Shortages of beds, equipment, or staff could lead to difficult decisions, sparking conflicts between doctors and administrators. Triage scenes, where patients are. Of course, this being Genoa City, fans must also ask, was the crash truly an accident? Spoilers leave room for speculation about foul play. Billy has enemies, plenty of them. Could Victor Newman have orchestrated something behind the scenes, tired of Billy's constant disruption in Victoria's life? Could one of Billy's past gambling debts have finally come back to haunt him, with someone tampering with his car to send a message? Or could a corporate rival, perhaps Tucker McCall, have decided to remove Billy as an obstacle in his relentless business games? If foul play is involved, the crash will not only be a medical crisis but a criminal investigation, with the Newmans, Abbotts, and others caught in a storm of suspicion. Jack Abbott's role in the aftermath will be crucial. Jack has spent much of his life trying to protect Billy from himself, only to watch him crash, sometimes literally, again and again. If Billy's accident leaves him clinging to life, Jack may be forced to confront his own guilt and whether he's been enabling Billy's destructive patterns. Jack's relationship with Diane could also come under strain, as Diane may worry about how much more Jack can take before his own health and happiness crumble. At the same time, Jill Abbott could rush back into town, determined to fight for her son and furious at anyone she perceives as having abandoned him. Jill's fiery energy could add fuel to the already tense Abbott-Newman dynamic. On the Newman side, Victor will likely use the accident to his advantage, spinning the situation to once again paint Billy as unfit for Victoria or the children. Nicky may try to keep Victor in check, but his disdain for Billy has always been personal, and this may be the perfect opening for him to push Victoria toward a future free of Billy's chaos. Yet, deep down, even Victor may feel conflicted if the crash threatens to take Billy's life permanently. From a storytelling perspective, the potential aftermath is vast. If Billy survives, will he finally wake up to the consequences of his recklessness, or will the crash send him deeper into self-destruction? If he comes out of it with long-term injuries, his career, relationships, and sense of identity could all be shaken to the core. Imagine Billy grappling with the idea of no longer being able to live life on his own terms, forced to depend on others in ways that terrify him. His recovery could bring him closer to Chelsea, Lily, or even Victoria, reigniting old flames while creating new rivalries. A hospital crisis could also serve as a launching pad for other storylines. Elena and Nate's involvement could reopen their romantic tension, while Devon and Abby could be pulled in if Lily becomes central to the fallout. Even Sharon might get caught in the emotional storm, as someone who has supported Billy in the past and knows the fragility of life all too well. The ripple effects could spread wide, uniting the canvas in ways fans haven't seen in a long time. Ultimately, the looming hospital crisis storyline is about more than Billy's survival. It's about how Genoa City responds when tragedy strikes, how families fracture or come together under pressure, and how the characters we love most find strength in the face of heartbreak. Whether Billy emerges stronger, weaker, or not at all, one thing is clear: his crash could change the course of the Young and the Restless for months, if not years, to come. The Young and the Restless spoilers: Michael would never hurt Billy, although he may be accused of it. In Genoa City, where loyalty and betrayal often go hand in hand, few relationships have carried as much weight as the complicated history between Michael Baldwin and Billy Abbott. Both men have carved reputations for themselves that are a mixture of triumphs, failures, and moral gray areas. Yet one thing is certain to longtime fans: Michael, despite his shady past and his tendency to dance along the edges of ethical boundaries, has always stood by his principles when it comes to protecting those he considers family or friends. That's why the idea of him intentionally harming Billy seems unthinkable. And yet, the storm clouds gathering in Genoa City suggest otherwise, as whispers circulate that Michael may find himself accused of doing just that. It's the kind of scandal that could rip through the Abbott and Baldwin families, leaving everyone questioning where the truth really lies. The setup for this explosive storyline has been unfolding for weeks. Billy has been spiraling again, caught between his impulsive nature, his inability to fully escape the shadows of his past, and his constant battle with self-destruction. Viewers have seen him teeter on the edge more than once, often driving wedges into his relationships and stirring chaos in Genoa City. His latest troubles have brought him into direct conflict with powerful forces, and it has left him vulnerable. That vulnerability opens the door for suspicion to fall on anyone close to him, especially those with a complicated bond like Michael. Michael Baldwin has undergone one of the most dramatic transformations in Genoa City history. Once the calculating villain with an obsession for power and manipulation, he reformed into one of the most respected legal minds in the city. As district attorney and later as an independent attorney, Michael has often been the voice of reason when others give into chaos. He has saved Genoa City residents from prison sentences, protected their rights, and even risked his career to defend friends. But a past as checkered as his doesn't simply disappear. Those who oppose him can easily use his history against him, painting him as someone who could lash out under pressure or act out of desperation. This is where Billy's troubles intersect with Michael's vulnerabilities. Rumors hint that Billy's recent downward spiral will lead to an incident, possibly an accident, possibly something more sinister, that leaves him seriously injured or endangered. The aftermath will trigger a wave of accusations, and Michael, due to his proximity to the situation, may find himself in the crosshairs. Imagine the shockwaves, the respected attorney suddenly under suspicion of committing a crime against a man he has defended and counseled on numerous occasions. For fans, the emotional weight lies in knowing Michael's true heart. He may have once been ruthless, but hurting Billy is not in his nature, not now, not ever. Still, Genoa City thrives on tension and suspicion, and perception often overshadows truth. The fallout will likely test Michael's resilience and his ability to prove his innocence, while Billy's condition fuels speculation. Could it be that someone else is framing Michael? Is this a setup designed to pit friends against one another? Or is Billy himself somehow caught in a web of manipulation where even he can't clearly point to what happened? The potential suspects are endless. Victor Newman could have a hand in orchestrating chaos, given his long history of power plays. Adam Newman, with his knack for stirring trouble, could be implicated either intentionally or by accident. Even Audra Charles, always scheming from the sidelines, might use the situation to her advantage. Each of them has their own reasons for wanting to destabilize Billy, and Michael could easily become collateral damage in their schemes. Family ties make the situation even more complicated. Lauren, Michael's wife, has always stood by him through the darkest chapters of his life. But how will she react if her husband becomes a suspect in a case involving Billy Abbott, someone tied so closely to the Abbott clan that Lauren herself has worked with over the years? Then there's Chloe, Kevin, and the extended Baldwin Fisher family, who would surely rally to Michael's defense but may also find themselves targeted as investigators dig into the past. On the other side, the Abbotts, Jack, Ashley, and Tracy, will be torn between their loyalty to Billy and their understanding of Michael's true character. In soap opera fashion, accusations don't just test friendships, they often unearth long-buried secrets. The case against Michael could lead to past decisions coming back to haunt him, cases he prosecuted, corners he cut, enemies he made. Someone could seize the chance to exploit his reputation, spinning the narrative that Michael never truly changed from the man he once was. This would not only threaten his freedom but also destroy the respect he's earned over the years. For Michael, that might be an even bigger punishment than prison, the idea that everything he worked for could crumble with one accusation. Billy, depending on how the story unfolds, may either defend Michael or unknowingly add fuel to the fire. If his accident or injury clouds his memory, he could give testimony that points suspicion toward Michael. The irony would be gut-wrenching, Billy accusing the very man who has often pulled him back from the brink. Alternatively, if Billy regains his strength, he might become Michael's fiercest defender, swearing that no matter what the evidence says, Michael would never do this to him. That loyalty could flip the investigation on its head, forcing others to look elsewhere for answers. Ultimately, this storyline is less about whether Michael is guilty, fans know the truth, and more about how the accusations will unravel relationships and test alliances. In Genoa City, where justice often bends to power and perception, proving innocence isn't always straightforward. Michael may need to dig deep into his own network of allies, call in favors, and even put himself in dangerous situations to clear his name. His fight will be one of survival, not just against the legal system, but against the court of public opinion that could destroy his legacy. For long-time viewers, this story promises everything they love about The Young and the Restless: emotional conflict, dramatic twists, and a deeper exploration of characters they've followed for decades. Watching Michael stand trial in the court of public opinion, while Billy's fate hangs in the balance, is the kind of storytelling that reminds fans why Genoa City remains the most compelling town in daytime drama. The stakes are high, the accusations are shocking, and the truth is buried beneath layers of manipulation. Michael Baldwin may never hurt Billy, but proving that to everyone else could become the fight of his life.